How could you say such horrible things about me? I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. I'm not a parasite, you know that. I've been supporting you and your mother for almost a year. Joaquin shrugged, his casual demeanor only fanning the flames of my frustration. It's not a big deal, he said with a dismissive shrug. That's just how things are in my family. You know, machismo and all. Machismo? I shot back, disbelief and anger warring in my voice. Don't you dare use that as an excuse. This isn't just some outdated tradition. This is my life you're tearing apart. My husband waved me off, heading to the bedroom as if nothing had happened. You're being dramatic. Just drop it, Alexis, he concluded. As I sat alone in the dark, his words echoing cruelly in my mind, I realized this wasn't just a bad evening, it was a turning point. And tomorrow, I would make the decision that would change everything. I'm Alexis. My marriage to my husband, Joaquin, was relatively recent, but unfortunately, it didn't last long. In hindsight, I consider it a blessing in disguise as I discovered his true nature. I crave love, and Joaquin seemed to understand that, showering me with affection. Both of us had stable jobs, leading us to decide on marriage approximately 4 years into our relationship. Admittedly, it was a rushed decision, and little did I know about the facade of Joaquin's love. Shortly after our marriage, Joaquin revealed a shocking truth. He confessed to hiding that he had lost his job just before we married. This revelation left me bewildered and scared. I was ashamed, he said. I feared disappointing you. In my family, men who can't provide are looked down upon. Despite my disappointment, I supported him as he searched for a new job. However, as time passed, Joaquin made no effort to find employment, even 11 months into our marriage. Adding to my challenges, I found myself financially supporting his mother, Joanne, with a monthly allowance. Joanne, a difficult woman, treated me poorly, branding me a gold digger publicly and humiliating me at every opportunity. What made matters worse was Joaquin's lack of intervention, leaving it to his sister Margaret to stand up for me. In a private conversation, Margaret expressed her concern. Alexis, she said, I know my family can be difficult, and to be honest, they might never fully appreciate you simply because you're a woman. I've been through this myself. Her words resonated deeply. Margaret's advice became a turning point for me, prompting me to reassess my situation. I had a well-established career, yet my mother constantly criticized Joaquin simply because he's a man. Margaret's words struck a chord with me, as Joanne consistently demeaned women while lavishing her son with praise. I had often wondered how she would react when she learned that I was the one covering her expenses. Back then, I could never have anticipated witnessing her first-hand reaction and discovering the true nature of Joaquin. It all unfolded during a family dinner to which I was invited. The atmosphere was lively, with many people from Joaquin's side present. However, my husband's actions left me utterly speechless. He proudly proclaimed, I am the family's breadwinner. I could have accepted that, but he didn't stop there. Instead, he mocked and fabricated lies about me, saying, Alexis earns very little, and I have to cover all her luxuries. The room echoed with laughter as he painted me as a gold digger. Joanne seized the opportunity to affirm her disdain. I knew it. I've always been right about Alexis, she declared. She's just a freeloader. I'm grateful that my hard work allows me to support her, even if it's a bit of a burden. She can't manage her expenses, and without me, she'd be destitute. Joaquin went on, his tone laced with pompous pride. Joanne chimed in again. Exactly. She's just like a pet, completely dependent on her husband. Women should naturally be taken care of by men. Their words stung deeply. While I had always known about Joanne's animosity, Joaquin's betrayal was a profound shock. I couldn't fathom that he would fabricate such lies and perpetuate such harmful stereotypes about me. Seeing me on the verge of tears, Margaret stepped in decisively. Enough, she snapped, turning to Joaquin and Joanne. You're both being unnecessarily cruel to Alexis. She's an incredible person and a hard-working woman. She doesn't deserve your awful words. You owe her an apology. Why should we apologize? We're just being honest, Joaquin scoffed. If anyone should apologize, it's Alexis for being a parasite in this family, Joanne added. Margaret, her voice trembling with frustration, said, Do you hear yourselves? You mock her for no reason. Joaquin, how can you just stand by and let mom belittle her? You both owe her everything, but instead, you humiliate her publicly. Her words left a profound impact on me. Meanwhile, my initial hurt simmered into seething anger. I had spent so much of my time and money caring for them, yet I barely recognized the man Joaquin had become. Holding back the urge to confront them on the spot, I endured Joaquin and Joanne's cutting remarks until I couldn't take it anymore. Claiming a headache, I made an early exit from the family dinner, much to Joaquin's visible annoyance. Once we were home, I finally let my frustration boil over, confronting Joaquin directly. Why would you say such horrible things about me? I demanded. I am not a parasite, and you know that. I've been supporting you and your mother for almost a year. Joaquin shrugged dismissively. It's not a big deal, he said, brushing it off. That's just how things are in my family, you know, machismo and all. His casual dismissal only fueled my anger further. That evening, I realized I couldn't keep living this way. I needed to make serious changes. Joaquin and Joanne had shown their true colors, and I could no longer ignore the toxic reality of our marriage. To Joaquin, appearances were everything. He believed it would look bad if people knew the truth about our situation. After Joaquin lost his job, instead of addressing his own struggles, he turned on me, labeling me a parasite. Rather than fabricating a story to protect his image, he took the crueler path, humiliating me in front of our family to boost his ego. How do you justify this, Joaquin? Explain yourself, I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and pain. You're being overly dramatic today, Alexis. Learn to let things go. You're spoiling all my fun. Now calm down and go back to sleep. It's been a long evening, Joaquin dismissed, attempting to trivialize the situation. No, absolutely not. I won't pretend I was okay with what you did today. Did you even hear what your mother said? Instead of defending me, you joined Joanne in humiliating me even more, I protested, refusing to back down. Leave my mother out of this, Alexis. You're the one who can't take some jokes and harmless teasing. You're simply blaming us for your insecurities. Let's go to bed. You have to work tomorrow. I have the luxury to stay at home and waste time, Joaquin remarked, casually heading to the bedroom to sleep. Stunned by his nonchalant dismissal of my feelings, I realized he couldn't understand why I was reacting this way. That night, I stayed on the couch reflecting on everything. It became clear that I had been a fool. Joaquin and his mother were using me to fund their lives without any genuine feelings. Joaquin's attitude further revealed that he was exploiting me, and our marriage had become financially abusive. I knew I needed to get out. The next day, Joaquin acted as if nothing had happened, conveniently forgetting his insulting remarks. When I tried to discuss it again, he repeatedly shut me down. Frustrated, I realized it was time to make a decision. Before doing anything, I reached out to Margaret, expressing gratitude for being the only one who stood up for me, even if it was a feeble attempt. Joaquin and Mom can be quite ruthless when they decide to act, and it was certainly inappropriate for my brother to manipulate you in that manner, just because he's perceived as the breadwinner, my sister-in-law sympathized. About that, Margaret, I confided. He has been deceiving everyone. He hasn't been the breadwinner for almost a year, having left his job, a fact he hasn't disclosed to anyone. Surprisingly, even his mother didn't know about this. Joanne had no idea that it wasn't her son providing her allowance. It was me giving her the money. My husband wouldn't compromise his macho image, not even with his mother, so he's been dishonest with her too. I can't fathom dealing with these people, and for you, Margaret, it must be incredibly challenging. I've reached my limit as the ATM for Joaquin and Joanne, I complained. I've come to realize that Joaquin married me solely for financial gain, knowing I craved love and would comply with his wishes, I continued. Thankfully, I uncovered his true motives before wasting more years on him. Margaret, I've had enough and am planning to take action. I confided in you because I believe you can support me. Alexis, I understand what you're going through, Margaret said gently. I've been through years of struggle myself. Tell me your plans, and I'll do everything I can to help. I informed Margaret about my intentions. I aimed to teach Joaquin and Joanne a lesson for their regressive views on women and make them understand they couldn't exploit others at will. Together, Margaret and I devised a plan and set it in motion. I consulted with a lawyer, addressing certain matters, and decided to wait a week before initiating the first part of my plan. Once the week elapsed, I was ready to confront Joaquin. Just 11 months into our marriage, I sat him down and disclosed a crucial matter. "Joaquin, I need you to listen and be patient," I urged, but he dismissed it as another trivial issue. "Alexis, drop the matter and stop being dramatic. I can't stand dramatic women," he snapped. Frustrated, I delivered the news to Joaquin. "You no longer have to be with me because I have filed for the annulment of our marriage." He was taken aback and thought I was joking. "Why would you do that? What's your reason?" he asked, stunned. "You lied about being employed and manipulated me into supporting your freeloading lifestyle," I explained. "When I attempt to communicate with you, I realize that you no longer care about my feelings. Moreover, you did nothing to shield me from your mother. Those were not just minor inconveniences, Joaquin. They were significant betrayals," I said firmly. "However, we don't need to pursue an annulment solely based on that," he tried to argue. "Well, what's your plan, Joaquin? Do you intend to keep me in limbo for a few more years until you're ready to claim alimony?" "Well, those plans won't work anymore," I concluded. "I see through your facade, Joaquin. You used me to support both your life and your mother's, giving me nothing but insults and shame in return," I added angrily. As he looked at my enraged expression, he began to apologize, finally realizing that I was not the doormat he once imagined. I am a woman who knows how to stand up for herself. The moment he heard the word annulment, he realized his personal ATM was about to break free. He began pleading with me, completely unaware of what I had prepared for him, but I stood my ground. He begged me not to destroy everything, claiming we were once happy together. But I saw this as far more than just a mistake. For days, I had tried to discuss his actions with him, but he either ignored me or became furious every time I brought it up. Not once did he apologize for his behavior, and our once good relationship deteriorated when he deceived me into supporting both him and his mother. "I don't need your fake apologies, Joaquin. I'm done with you, and I'm moving forward after our annulment," I said firmly. "And there's one more thing I forgot to mention." I pulled out a stack of documents and handed them to him. As he began reading, shock spread across his face. "Yes, Joaquin," I explained. "These documents aren't just about the annulment of our marriage. They also include your eviction notice. Since I've already informed you about the annulment, I thought it appropriate to provide the eviction papers as well." "You can't kick me out," he exclaimed in a panic. "I'm your husband." "But where's your attention, Joaquin?" I replied sharply. "I've already made it clear that I filed for an annulment. You won't be my husband for much longer, and yes, I am absolutely asking you to leave." He sighed deeply, looking defeated. "I have nowhere else to go. I can't tell my mom I lost my job. That's out of the question," he muttered in frustration. "And yet, you had no problem lying about your job to Joanne, did you?" I countered. "I'm sure you'll figure something out. Come up with a plan, use your tricks, whatever it takes. As for your mother, she's not getting any more financial support from me. However, in a gesture of generosity, I'm giving you until the end of the month to sort things out." I made my position clear and left Joaquin to deal with the situation on his own. Anticipating his call to Margaret for assistance, we'd orchestrated the plan such that she would staunchly refuse any aid. Having endured enough humiliation, Margaret was eager to sever ties and willingly participated in my scheme. Throughout the next month, Joaquin attempted every conceivable gesture to change my stance, adopting a romantic demeanor and showering me with affection. He even purchased gifts using the last allowance I provided. I simply left them in the main bedroom and retired to the guest room. Granting him the main bedroom was my parting gesture, knowing he'd likely be facing the cold streets soon. He remained convinced I wouldn't evict him. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law remained oblivious to the unfolding events. When the month concluded and she didn't receive her allowance, she stormed into my house. "Why are you intentionally withholding money from me?" my mother-in-law demanded angrily, her tone sharp and her eyes blazing with fury. "I've already told you, Joaquin's financial decisions are his responsibility," I replied calmly but firmly. Joaquin has been telling everyone that you depend on him, she shouted, her voice growing louder. He claimed you've been draining his accounts and even eyeing my money. I met her gaze, keeping my composure. That money was never yours to begin with, Joanne. And as for Joaquin, he lied. Her face twisted with disdain. Lied? Who's going to believe that? How are you going to convince anyone that he isn't the successful man providing for his family? No one will believe you. I exhaled and replied firmly. Joaquin is unemployed. I've been the one supporting this family all along. He's just been pretending to be the provider to save face. She waved her hand dismissively, as if my words meant nothing. Nonsense, that's impossible, she hissed. At that moment, Joaquin entered the room. Joanne immediately turned on him, her voice cutting. Tell her you're the one supporting this household, that you're the one providing. Joaquin paled and looked away, his silence deafening. Joanne's frustration erupted. Say something, Joaquin. Why are you just standing there? His mother demanded. Finally, he mumbled, barely audible. It's her. What? Joanne stared at him in disbelief. Joaquin took a deep breath, looked up, and said quietly but clearly, She's the one who has been supporting us all along. Joanne froze, her expression a mixture of shock and anger. You couldn't have depended on a woman. This has to be a lie, she shouted, desperately trying to deny the truth. I sighed and, looking directly at her, said, You heard him. That's the truth. Joaquin will no longer live off me. He's already received his eviction notice. He has 1 week to leave the house, I concluded. Joanne turned to Joaquin, interrogating him relentlessly. As the truth spilled out, her shock only deepened. She tried a different tactic, her tone pleading. Please, she begged me. Don't leave Joaquin, don't stop helping us, we need you. I laughed, shaking my head. A month ago, you despised me. Now you want my help? Over the next week, both Joaquin and Joanne continued their relentless appeals, apologizing and begging me to reconsider. However, I stood firm. When the week elapsed, I ordered Joaquin to leave my property. If you don't, I warned him, I'll involve the police. Reluctantly, he packed his belongings and moved in with Joanne. Later, Margaret informed me of their attempts to seek money from her, which she adamantly refused. I blocked their numbers and instructed my husband to communicate through a lawyer. Our separation proceeded smoothly, as Joaquin lacked the financial means to contest it in court. Eventually, I heard they were being evicted from Joanne's apartment due to months of unpaid rent. Cut off from Margaret's support, they resorted to couch surfing at relatives' places, facing uncertain prospects. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life and embracing contentment on my own. I vowed not to fall into anyone's trap again, hopeful that I would find my true soulmate in the future.